Welcome to NHL Quick Hits. David Crosby here with Steel Roden. Big news out of Philadelphia, and I am not talking about their first two-game win streak in a month. The Flyers placed 27-year-old defenseman Shayne Gostisbehere on waivers Tuesday, who is signed through the 2022-23 season at a cap hit of $4.5 million per year. Gostisbehere has 11 points in 25 games this year, but he's been widely panned for poor defensive play. Defense, though, has never really been his game. He finished second in Calder Trophy voting in 2015-16 with 46 points in 64 games. Of course, 2 seasons later, he exploded for 65 points in 78 games, and he actually finished top 10 in Norris Trophy voting that season. Gostisbehere cleared waivers at noon on Wednesday, so the Flyers can demote him to the AHL or, more likely, to their taxi squad. Now, either one of those moves is going to clear out a roster spot and save Philadelphia $1.075 million from their cap. So, Steele, let's start in Philadelphia. What went wrong, and how did they get to this point?
Well, I think the first thing that went wrong was their goaltending. I don't think anyone expected Carter Hart to be playing this poorly this season after having an incredible playoff run last year, as well as just having a great season throughout his first 2 career seasons with the Philadelphia Flyers. So I think goaltending is definitely one of the major problems for the Philadelphia Flyers, but their defensemen haven't been good either. They don't have one of those star defensemen, and I think Matt Niskanen retiring prior to the season starting really left them in trouble and they had a hole to fill before the season even started. And this move from Chuck Fletcher was all about cap space. This wasn't a move because Gostisbehere was playing poorly this year. He hasn't been great. He hasn't been playing horribly. To me, this is a cap space move. I don't think the Philadelphia Flyers are going to be sellers when it comes to the deadline. I think they're going to be looking to bolster up their blue line and hopefully get back on track because, you know, they won, like you said, first win streak in a month now. And I think that's kind of, they got to take this momentum, roll with it. And before the trade deadline comes up, sort of get some help on the blue line for sure.
You know, it's kind of funny seeing Philadelphia Flyer fans react online on Twitter. The kind of posts they were saying, people were freaking out, wondering why they could place this guy on waivers, seemingly worried they were going to lose him for nothing. I haven't seen anything but negative posts from anyone about Gostisbehere in pretty much 2 seasons. And then all of a sudden it seemed that people were coming to his defense, acting like he wasn't done. What do you see as happening next for Gostisbehere? The AHL, the taxi squad, or potentially a trade ahead of the deadline?
I think he will be traded before the deadline. That's just where I'm seeing this going from the Flyers' perspective here. And he's not going to be the main piece. He's just going to be an asset, topped on maybe other prospects as well as picks. But I think he's going to be dealt in to a team where the Flyers are trying to target a defenseman as well. So you look at teams like the Nashville Predators who have had conversations about Matthias Ekholm, maybe the Dallas Stars with John Klingberg as they try to create some cap space going into next season for Miro Heiskanen, as well as guys like David Savard and Alex Goligoski. So those guys are going to be targets for the Philadelphia Flyers, and Gostisbehere could definitely be a piece or an asset in a trade for one of those players.
To be honest, I was a little bit surprised that one of these bottom feeder teams, no disrespect, but didn't take a shot at this guy. I understand $4.5 million is quite a lot of money, but like we said, this guy put up almost a point per game 3 seasons ago. Even if he's just a power play specialist in, let's say, Buffalo, Ottawa, Detroit, like Anaheim, all of these teams are so bereft of talent right now. I'm just a little bit surprised that one of them didn't say, let's take a shot on this guy. We have plenty of cap space anyways.
Yeah, for sure. Those teams definitely could have gotten the help, especially the Buffalo Sabres, for sure, when, you know, they're on their 18-game losing streak right now. All of those teams that you mentioned could have taken a shot on this guy. But again, cap space definitely comes into play for some of those teams. They might not want to pick him up just because it's not part of their plan for the future. So there's a lot of variables that come into play about why these, you know, like you say, bottom feeder teams that could use some help don't pick a guy like Gostisbehere up right now. But I think it's the plan for the future that definitely they looked away for on Gostisbehere.
Well, I did see a pretty wild post from the Athletics' James Myrtle last night that mentioned 2 defensemen who finished top 12 in Norris Trophy voting in the past 3 seasons. That's Gostisbehere and Tony DeAngelo with the Rangers, could have been had for nothing more than taking on their salary this season. So I don't know if maybe it's time for voters to look a little harder at the defensive side of the game in Norris Trophy voting in the future, or what's going on there, but that wouldn't happen in any other league when you're talking about a top 12 guy at his position, 2 of them becoming available in the same year. But let's move on to the North Division. Everybody is talking about Connor McDavid's hit on Jesperi Kotkaniemi. McDavid avoided suspension and was fined $5,000 for elbowing Kotkaniemi in the first period of Tuesday's game. Steele, is this superstar treatment, or do you think this is fair discipline?
I think this is fair discipline, and I don't think this play was suspension worthy. Yes, it was a late hit. Yes, he threw his elbow out in Kotkaniemi's face. So it was definitely a penalty, no question about that. Kotkaniemi, went down. He kind of slid around to the side of his bench, but he got back up. He wasn't hurt. It was definitely a penalty on Connor McDavid. I think this was the right call. Finding him the most allowable under the CBA rules. So to me, this isn't superstar anything. He has no prior offenses to this, and it was a dirty hit. He threw his elbow. There's no questions about it, but I think this was a fair call.
When you watch it in slow motion, just like almost every other hit, it looks so much worse than if you watch it at game speed. The only problem that I have with it, and the one notable thing, not to pick on the referees, it's been a tough couple of weeks for NHL referees, but McDavid only received a 2-minute roughing penalty. I mean, he clearly got the elbow up. He clearly hit him in the head. If you're trying to take headshots out of the game, I think a 2-minute penalty is a little bit light. But I agree, as a guy who, isn't a prior offender, I don't think it was intentional. I just think that elbow rode up a little bit higher than he meant to. I don't think it was suspension worthy. But let's move on to the Central Division now. And specifically, you mentioned them earlier, to the red hot Nashville Predators, winners of 6 straight. Maybe they're not going to trade Matthias Ekholm after all, because they could be a playoff team. After they were written off for dead, here included, they are now a half game up on the Blackhawks for the 4th and final playoff spot in that division. The Blue Jackets are 3 points behind both teams, while the Stars are 7 points back, but have 4 games in hand on all 3 teams. Now, the Lightning, Panthers, and Hurricanes are way above that fray. They are basically guaranteed playoff spots at this point, probably guaranteed the top 3 seeds in that division. So, Seal, I'm going to ask you to peer into that crystal ball of yours. Which of these 4 teams has the best chance of claiming that final playoff spot?
To me, I think the Chicago Blackhawks have the best chance. And it's a long shot because they don't have the best goaltending duo right here. Obviously, Kevin Lankinen's been an absolute stud for them, but Malcolm Subban and Colin Delia have just not gotten the job done as a backup goaltender for the Blackhawks. So that's going to be the struggle for Chicago moving forward. But again, you just got Kirby Dach back. Patrick Kane is in the heart conversation as well, just for how well he brings up and lifts this team that has, struggled with injuries for the entire season. Dylan Strom's back in the lineup. Alex DeBrincat's playing really, really well as well. So there's a lot of things that go on for the Chicago Blackhawks that I enjoy watching them right now. And it's definitely going to be a photograph finish. This is not going to end until the last game of the season. But I think the Chicago Blackhawks come up on top.
We're in lockstep here today, Steele, because I also think the Chicago Blackhawks have the best chance. Maybe I'm just rooting for them a little bit to make that push with this core that they have right now before they have to kind of blow it up in Chicago. But you're right. It should be an exciting finish. I hope the Columbus Blue Jackets can turn it around. They just got swept by Detroit, so I don't know what that says for their chances, but I would probably put them at the bottom of that quartet. That's going to do it for today's episode, but make sure to tune in on Thursday for a recap of Wednesday night's game between the Maple Leafs and Jets with the top spot in the North on the line. All that and more. On behalf of Steele Roden, I'm David Crosby, and thanks for tuning in to NHL Quick Hits.